The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a crystal cave filled with stars. Ambassador Chen Wei walked slowly across the smooth floor, her boots making soft sounds in the huge space. Above her head, thousands of lights twinkled like tiny suns, each one representing a world that belonged to the Council. Chen carried a small datapad in her hands. On it was everything Earth wanted to share with the galaxy: their history, their science, their dreams of joining the great community of worlds. She had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Around the circular hall sat the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Zephyrians looked like living crystals, their bodies catching and reflecting the starlight in rainbow patterns. They spoke in musical tones that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The Kepler Collective representatives appeared as a group of identical humanoids, but Chen knew they shared one mind spread across millions of bodies. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light as they communicated without words. The most frightening were the Drakmor Empire delegates. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Their red eyes burned like coals, and their clawed hands rested on the hilts of ceremonial weapons. Admiral Vextar, their military leader, sat at the center of their group like a mountain of living shadow. "The human delegation may present their application," announced Counselor Zelmoth, a Zephyrian whose crystal body pulsed with authority. Chen stepped forward and placed her datapad on the speaking platform. A hologram appeared above it, showing Earth as a blue marble floating in space. "Honored Council members," she began, "humanity requests membership in the Galactic Council. We offer our unique perspective, our determination, and our commitment to peace among the stars." The hologram changed to show human cities, their art, their music, their achievements in science and exploration. Chen spoke about how humans had traveled from their home world to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn. She explained how they had learned to live in space habitats and on harsh planets. "And what?" interrupted Admiral Vextar, his voice like grinding stone. "Can your species offer in terms of military strength?" The question Chen had been dreading. She touched her datapad again, and the hologram showed Earth's fleet. 12 ships hung in space around their home world. They were not beautiful or sleek like the alien vessels. Instead, they looked like they had been built from spare parts. The largest was barely half the size of a standard Drakmor cruiser. "Our fleet consists of 12 defensive vessels," Chen said, trying to keep her voice steady. "They are designed to protect our home system and support our exploration missions." The silence that followed felt heavy. Then Admiral Vextar began to laugh. It was a sound like rocks tumbling down a mountain. Soon other Drakmor delegates joined him. Even some of the Zephyrians made musical sounds that Chen realized were their version of laughter. 12 ships? Vextar gasped between laughs. Built from mining equipment and cargo haulers? This is what humanity calls a fleet? A Kepler Collective speaker stood up. When they spoke, it was with the voice of millions. The human military capacity appears insufficient for Council membership requirements. Their technology level suggests they are approximately 200 years behind current galactic standards. Chen felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept her expression calm. "We understand our fleet may seem small by galactic standards. However, we believe diversity of thought and peaceful intentions matter more than military might." This brought fresh waves of laughter from the Drakmor delegation. Admiral Vextar stood up, his massive frame casting a shadow across the speaking platform. "Child, you play with toys while calling them weapons. Your 12 rust buckets would not last 5 minutes against a single Drakmor patrol ship." Counselor Zelmoth raised a crystal hand for silence. The Council will now deliberate on the human application. Chen was escorted to a waiting area while the Council discussed her people's fate. Through the transparent walls, she could see the delegates talking among themselves. Some pointed at holographic displays showing Earth's fleet. Every time they did, more laughter echoed through the hall. After 2 hours, Chen was called back to the speaking platform. Counselor Zelmoth stood to deliver the verdict. "After careful consideration, the Galactic Council has voted on humanity's application for membership." Chen held her breath. "The vote is unanimous," Zelmoth continued. "The application is denied. Humanity is deemed technologically primitive and militarily irrelevant. The Council suggests your species continue developing for another century before reapplying." Admiral Vextar leaned forward in his seat. "Perhaps when you have built actual warships instead of flying scrapyards, we might consider you worthy of notice." Chen nodded slowly. She had expected this outcome, but it still hurt to hear it spoken aloud. She gathered her datapad and prepared to leave. Ambassador Chen called out a Zephyrian delegate. Please do not take this decision personally. Many species require multiple applications before achieving membership. In time, perhaps humanity will develop the strength necessary to join our community. Chen stopped and turned back to face the council. Her voice was quiet but clear when she spoke. I thank the council for their time and consideration. The decision has been noted and will be communicated to Earth's leadership. She paused, and something in her tone made the laughter die away. The council has made its position very clear regarding humanity's place in galactic affairs. We understand that respect must be earned, not given freely. Humanity will remember this day, and the lessons learned here. Admiral Vextar waved a clawed hand dismissively. Run along, little human. Return when you have something more impressive than children playing with scrap metal. Chen bowed formally to the council and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet of the Great Hall. As she reached the door, she turned back one final time. The galaxy will hear from humanity again, she said. When that day comes, I hope the council will remember their words today as clearly as we will. The doors closed behind her with a soft whisper, leaving the council delegates to return to more important matters. They had forgotten about the humans before Chen's ship even left the station. On her journey back to Earth, Chen composed her report. She described the laughter, the mockery, the casual dismissal of everything humanity had built. She wrote about Admiral Vextar's sneering contempt and the council's unanimous rejection. But in her private log, she added one more note. Phase 2 may now begin. Deep in Earth's solar system, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, massive construction facilities received an encrypted message. The workers there, humans who had spent decades building in secret, read the simple code. The council has decided. Continue as planned. In hidden shipyards scattered throughout the outer planets, welders put down their tools and smiled. The masquerade was almost over. Soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had really been building while everyone laughed at their 12 scrap heap ships. The Galactic Council had made their position clear. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's rejection of Earth's membership application. Ambassador Chen had returned home to a world that seemed strangely calm about the humiliation. The news report spoke of disappointment but not despair. Most humans appeared to accept that they needed more time to develop their civilization. In the outer reaches of the galaxy, however, peace was breaking apart like ice in spring. The trouble started in the Kepler Reach, a region of space filled with valuable mineral deposits. The Kepler Collective had been mining there for centuries, their hive mind efficiently coordinating thousands of extraction operations across dozens of worlds. But old territorial agreements were murky, and the Drakmor Empire decided the time had come to claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. Admiral Vextar commanded the Drakmor Third Fleet as it moved toward the disputed systems. His ships were massive and dark, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The Drakmor had built their empire through conquest, and they saw no reason to change their methods now. The collective grows weak, Vextar told his officers as they gathered in the war room of his flagship. They spread their consciousness too thin across too many worlds. It is time to remind them that true power comes from strength, not numbers. The first skirmish happened near a mining station called Sigma 7. 3 Drakmor destroyers encountered a Kepler patrol and demanded they leave the system. The collective ships, controlled by the unified mind of their species, responded with perfect coordination. The battle lasted only minutes, but it left 2 Drakmor ships crippled and 1 Kepler vessel destroyed. News of the attack spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The Kepler Collective sent a formal protest to the Galactic Council, demanding immediate action against Drakmor aggression. The Drakmor Empire responded by claiming they were defending ancient territorial rights. Then the Zephyrians entered the conflict. Councillor Zelmoth addressed an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Her crystal body pulsed with agitation as she spoke. The collective speaks truth. According to the Treaty of Crystal Winds signed 400 years ago, the Kepler Reach belongs to the collective. The Drakmor have no legal claim to these systems. Admiral Vextar stood up from his delegation seat, his massive form radiating menace. The Zephyrians speak of old papers while ignoring current reality. The collective cannot defend what they claim to own. We take what we can hold. The council session dissolved into chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages, while holographic displays showed fleet movements throughout the disputed region. What had started as a minor border dispute was escalating into something far more dangerous. Within weeks, both sides began mobilizing their full military forces. The Drakmor Empire pulled ships from patrol duties across their territory, gathering them into massive battle fleets. The Kepler Collective awakened millions of dormant minds and began constructing new vessels with frightening speed. The Zephyrians, bound by their ancient treaty with the Collective, started preparing their own crystalline warships. The galaxy had not seen conflict on this scale for over a century. As the three major powers positioned themselves for war, they began reaching out to smaller species for support. The promise of territorial gains or trade advantages brought dozens of minor civilizations into the growing conflict. Battle lines formed across hundreds of star systems. It was during this tense time that humanity received an unexpected message. The communication arrived at Earth's diplomatic center in Geneva on a Tuesday morning. Ambassador Chen was reviewing intelligence reports when her aide rushed into her office with the transmission. "Ma'am, you need to see this immediately," the aide said, his face pale with excitement. The message appeared on Chen's holographic display. Admiral Vextar's scarred face filled the screen, his red eyes burning with their usual arrogance. "Greetings, humans," the Drakmor commander began. "As you may have heard, the galaxy finds itself at war. The righteous forces of the Drakmor Empire battle against the combined armies of the Collective and their crystal allies." Chen leaned back in her chair, wondering where this was leading. Vextar continued, "Despite your limited capabilities, the Empire remembers your desire to join galactic civilization. We offer you a chance to prove your worth. Send your 12 ships to support the righteous cause. Fight alongside the Drakmor Empire, and we might reconsider your council application." The message ended with coordinates for a Drakmor staging area and a deadline. Humanity had 1 week to decide. Chen stared at the blank screen for several minutes after the transmission ended. Then she began to laugh. Not the musical laughter of the Zephyrians or the rumbling amusement of the Drakmor, but the quiet, knowing laughter of someone who understood a joke that others had missed. "Shall I prepare a response, Ambassador?" her aide asked. "Yes," Chen replied, still smiling. "Tell Admiral Vextar that humanity appreciates the offer and will consider it carefully. We will send our answer within the specified time frame." As her aide left to draft the diplomatic response, Chen activated a secure communication channel. The person who answered was not another diplomat or politician. Admiral Sarah Harrison appeared on the screen, her steel-gray eyes sharp with intelligence. Behind her, Chen could see the familiar curved walls of a command center. "Sarah," Chen said, "it's time." Harrison nodded slowly. "The Drakmor have taken the bait?" "They want our 12 ships to join their glorious war effort," Chen replied. "Apparently our scrap metal might be useful for cannon fodder." "And the construction projects?" "All facilities report full operational status," Harrison said. "We've been ready for months. The crews are eager to finally reveal what they've been building." Chen looked out the window of her office at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, lay the asteroid belt where humanity had been working in secret for decades. The galaxy thought they knew what humanity was capable of. Soon, very soon, they would learn the truth. "Begin Phase 3, Chen ordered. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has really been building while they laughed at our 12 little ships." Harrison's smile was sharp as a knife. "It will be my pleasure, Ambassador. The real fleet is ready to deploy." The communication ended, leaving Chen alone with her thoughts. Outside her window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. It reminded her of the fires of war now spreading across the galaxy. The Drakmor Empire, the Kepler Collective, and the Zephyrian Commonwealth were about to learn that Earth's 12 visible ships were just the beginning of the story. The real human defense fleet had been waiting in the shadows, growing stronger while their enemies grew overconfident. In the asteroid belt, massive doors began opening on structures that had been disguised as mining operations. Inside those hidden facilities, ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen prepared for their first mission. The hulls were sleek and dark, filled with technology that would make the Drakmor's weapons look like wooden clubs. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's weakness. Now they would learn the difference between weakness and patience. The Nexus station hung in space like a giant metal flower, its arms stretching out to embrace ships from across the galaxy. For 300 years, it had served as the most important trading hub in this sector. Merchants, diplomats, and travelers of every species had passed through its docking bays. Now it was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher, and watched as his fleet moved into position. 200 Drakmor warships spread out in formation around the station. Each vessel was a masterpiece of destruction, armed with plasma cannons and fusion torpedoes that could turn asteroids into dust. "Status report," Vextar commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. "All ships ready for combat." "Admiral," his tactical officer replied, "the enemy fleet has been detected approaching from the other side of the station." Vextar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. The Kepler Collective and their Zephyrian allies thought they could challenge the Drakmor Empire. Today they would learn the price of such foolishness. On the opposite side of Nexus Station, the combined collective Zephyrian fleet took their own positions. 300 ships strong, they outnumbered the Drakmor forces, but Vexatar was not worried. Drakmor ships were built for war, while the collective relied on converted mining vessels, and the Zephyrians brought their beautiful but fragile crystal ships. Counselor Zelmoth floated in the command chamber of her vessel, the Harmony of Light. Her crystal body pulsed with concern as she communicated with the collective commanders. "The Drakmor position is strong," she observed. "They have chosen their formation well." The collective response came through multiple voices speaking as one. "The hive mind calculates a 63% probability of victory. Acceptable odds for securing our territorial rights." Neither side noticed the 12 human ships that approached the edge of the battle zone. They were the same vessels that had been mocked at the Galactic Council months earlier. Patched together from mining equipment and civilian parts, they looked like flying junk piles compared to the sleek warships preparing for battle. Captain Maria Santos commanded the lead human vessel, the New Horizon. She opened a communication channel to both fleets. "This is Captain Santos of the Human Defense Force," she announced. "We request permission to observe this engagement as neutral parties. Our ships will maintain a safe distance and will not interfere with military operations." Admiral Vextar barely glanced at the tactical display showing the human positions. "Humans? What are those primitives doing here?" He waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Let them watch. Perhaps they will learn something about real warfare." Counselor Zelmoth was equally unconcerned. "Grant them observer status," she told her communications officer. "Their presence is irrelevant to our mission." The human ships moved to a position several thousand kilometers away from the main battle zone. They appeared to be exactly what they claimed, observers keeping a safe distance from the coming battle. Captain Santos smiled as she watched the two alien fleets position themselves for combat. Behind her, her communications officer worked at a special console that had been hidden beneath a panel marked Life Support Secondary. "Phase 1 complete," the officer reported. "All stealth fields are holding. The real fleet remains undetected," Santos nodded. "Maintain position and prepare for the signal." The battle began with a barrage of long-range weapons fire. Drakmor plasma cannons painted space with deadly light, while collective missile swarms rushed toward their targets. The Zephyrian crystal ships fired beams of concentrated energy that could slice through metal like paper. Explosions bloomed between the fleets as weapons found their marks. The first casualty was a collective cruiser that took a direct hit from 3 Drakmor plasma cannons. Its hull split open like a broken egg, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. The Drakmor pressed their advantage, their heavier ships pushing forward through the defensive fire. But the collective had numbers on their side, and their hive mind coordination allowed them to focus fire with deadly precision. Soon Drakmor ships were taking damage as well. The battle raged for 2 hours. Nexus Station's defensive shields flickered under the impact of stray shots. Merchant vessels fled the area as quickly as their engines could carry them. This was exactly the kind of large-scale conflict the galaxy had feared. Admiral Vextar watched his tactical display with growing frustration. His forces were holding their own, but the battle was turning into a costly stalemate. Both sides were losing ships faster than they could replace them. "Admiral," his sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting unusual readings from the human observer ships." Vextar glanced at the display. The 12 human vessels were still in their observation position, apparently doing nothing. "What kind of readings?" "Energy spikes, sir. Like they're charging some kind of weapon system. Vextar laughed harshly. Those rust buckets have weapon systems? Even if they do, 12 primitive ships cannot affect a battle of this magnitude. That was when space itself began to change. Captain Santos received the coded transmission she had been waiting for. All ships, this is Admiral Harrison. You are cleared for Phase 4. Repeat, you are cleared for Phase 4. Santos turned to her crew with a grin. You heard the Admiral. Drop the masquerade. Across the 12 human ships, hidden panels slid open and powerful transmitters began broadcasting a signal that had been years in development. The signal reached out into space, invisible to alien sensors, calling to receivers that had been waiting in the darkness. The first sign something was wrong came from the collective sensor operators. Their shared consciousness suddenly registered massive gravitational distortions appearing throughout the battle zone. Unknown contacts materializing, the collective minds reported in unison. Massive energy signatures. Technology type unknown. Space began to ripple like water. Reality seemed to twist and bend as something enormous pushed through from somewhere else. The distortions grew larger and larger, until they looked like tears in the fabric of space itself. Then the real human defense fleet revealed itself. They came through dimensional fold points that made the alien. Faster than light travel look like walking. Sleek black ships with hulls that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each vessel was twice the size of the largest Drakmor battleship, but they moved with the grace of dancers. One ship became 10. 10 became 100. 100 became 1,000. They kept coming until over 2,000 human warships surrounded the battlefield like a dark cloud. Admiral Vexitar stared at his tactical display in shock. The readings made no sense. Each human ship showed energy signatures that dwarfed his most powerful vessels. Their technology was generations ahead of anything in the galactic database. Impossible, he whispered. The humans have 12 ships. We saw them. We counted them. A new voice echoed across all communication channels. Admiral Sarah Harrison spoke from the bridge of her flagship, the Earth's Resolve. A vessel so advanced it looked like it had been carved from liquid starlight. This is Admiral Harrison of the Human Defense Fleet, she announced. All combatant forces will cease fire immediately and withdraw to a safe distance. Any vessel that continues hostile actions will be disabled. The two alien fleets stopped shooting at each other and stared at the human armada that had appeared around them. Even the collective's hive mind seemed stunned into silence. Admiral Vextar found his voice first. Humans, where did these ships come from? Our intelligence showed you had only 12 vessels. Harrison's laugh was cold as space itself. Those 12 ships were exactly what we wanted you to see, Admiral. While you and the Council laughed at our primitive fleet, we were building our real one. Did you think we would show our true strength to people who mocked us? Captain Santos, still aboard the New Horizon, added her own voice to the communication. The ships you saw at the Council were decoys, Admiral Vextar. Old mining vessels dressed up to look like our best effort. We needed to know how the galaxy would treat a seemingly weak human presence. Counselor Zelmoth managed to activate her communication system, despite her shock. This is impossible. No species develops such advanced technology in secret. The Council monitors all industrial development. The Council monitors what it can see, Harrison replied. We built our fleet in the asteroid belt and the outer gas giant moons, using stealth technology you don't even know exists. Every facility was hidden, every ship disguised as civilian infrastructure. The human fleet began to move with perfect coordination. The alien forces found themselves gently but firmly pushed apart as human vessels took positions between them. It was clear that resistance would be futile against such overwhelming technological superiority. Admiral Vextar tried to maintain his dignity despite the impossible situation. What do you want, humans? Admiral Harrison's response would echo through galactic history. We want to talk. The silence that followed Admiral Harrison's words stretched across space like a held breath. 2,000 human warships hung motionless around the battle zone, their dark hulls reflecting the light from nearby stars. The alien fleets that had been locked in deadly combat moments before now found themselves facing something far more dangerous than each other. Admiral Vextar was the first to break the silence. His voice carried across the communication channels with barely controlled anger. You speak of talking, human, but you arrive with an armada that could conquer half the galaxy. Is this how your species negotiates? Admiral Harrison's image appeared on the main displays of every ship in the area. She was a woman of middle years with silver-streaked hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Behind her, the bridge of the Earth's resolve gleamed with technology that made the most advanced alien systems look primitive. "Admiral Vextar," Harrison said, her voice calm and measured. "6 months ago, your people laughed at our 12 ships and called them children's toys. You said they would not last 5 minutes against a single Drakmor patrol vessel. Would you like us to test that claim?" The Drakmor commander's scaled features twisted with fury. "You dare threaten the Drakmor Empire? We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Have you?" Harrison asked mildly. "Because from where I stand, it looks like you're trapped in a pointless war with the Collective over mining rights. Meanwhile, your enemies grow stronger while you waste ships and lives fighting each other." Counselor Zelmoth floated in her crystal chamber, her body pulsing with confusion and fear. "Admiral Harrison, the Galactic Council was not informed of humanity's true capabilities. Why did you hide your strength from us?" Harrison turned her attention to the Zephyrian. "Counselor, when Ambassador Chen appeared before the Council, she spoke of peace, cooperation, and the desire to join galactic civilization. Your response was mockery and dismissal. You judged us weak and decided we were unworthy. But surely you understand," Zelmoth protested, "that military strength is necessary for Council membership. How could we know you possessed such capabilities if you did not reveal them? Why should we have revealed them?" Harrison shot back. "So you could decide we were too dangerous instead of too weak? So you could demand we share our technology or face conquest? We chose to let you underestimate us instead." The collective minds spoke through their command ships, their multiple voices creating an eerie harmony. The hive consciousness demands proof of human capabilities. These vessels may be impressive in appearance, but appearances can deceive. Admiral Harrison smiled, and there was something predatory in that expression. "You want a demonstration? Very well." She gestured to her tactical officer. "Target the asteroid field at coordinates 77 Mark 12. Gravity pulse, minimum power." The nearest human ship, a sleek destroyer called the Quantum Dancer, turned toward a cluster of large asteroids floating several thousand kilometers away. Its hull began to glow with a soft blue light. What happened next defied everything. The aliens thought they knew about physics. Pulse of invisible force reached out from the human ship and touched the asteroid field. The rocks, some as large as small moons, simply stopped moving. They hung in space as if frozen in time, their orbital motion completely halted by some unknown technology. Then they began to move again, but not randomly. The asteroids danced through space in perfect formation, spinning and weaving around each other like performers in a cosmic ballet. The largest asteroid, a mountain of iron and stone, folded itself into a perfect geometric shape while maintaining its mass and density. "Gravity manipulation technology," Harrison explained to the stunned alien commanders. "We learned to bend space-time itself to our will. Your weapons push and pull against matter. We push and pull against the fundamental forces of the universe." Admiral Vextar stared at the display showing the dancing asteroids. His tactical computers could not even begin to calculate the energy requirements for such a feat. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever developed such technology." "No species that you know about," Harrison corrected. "While you conquered worlds through brute force, we studied the deepest mysteries of physics. While you built bigger guns, we learned to rewrite reality itself." She gestured again, and another human ship demonstrated a different capability. The vessel simply vanished from all sensors, becoming completely invisible despite its enormous size. Then it reappeared directly behind Admiral Vextar's flagship, close enough that the Drakmor crew could see human faces through the observation ports. "Dimensional phase technology," Harrison explained as the ship moved back to its original position. "We can step outside normal space-time when needed. Your sensors cannot detect us because we exist in a different layer of reality." Counselor Zelmoth's crystal body was pulsing rapidly with agitation. "These capabilities, they could revolutionize galactic civilization. Why do you not share this knowledge?" "Share it with people who dismissed us as primitive?" Harrison asked. "Share it with an empire that conquers through force? Share it with a collective that absorbs other species into its hive mind? Give us one good reason why humanity should trust any of you with technology that could remake the galaxy." The collective minds spoke again, their voices carrying a new note of respect. "The hive consciousness acknowledges human superiority. We propose immediate cessation of hostilities and negotiation of new territorial arrangements. Admiral Vextar was slower to accept the new reality. His pride warred with his tactical sense as he looked at the impossible human fleet surrounding his forces. "The Drakmor Empire does not yield to threats," he growled. "This is not a threat," Harrison replied calmly. "This is a fact. Your fleet, impressive as it may be, could not damage a single one of our ships. Our defensive screens operate on principles your scientists have not yet discovered. We could disable your entire armada without firing a shot." To prove her point, Harrison nodded to her weapons officer. Every Drakmor ship in the fleet suddenly found their weapon systems offline. Not damaged or destroyed, simply turned off. Their engines continued to function. Their life support remained operational, but every weapon from the smallest pulse rifle to the largest plasma cannon had become inert. "How?" Vextar demanded, his voice cracking with disbelief. "Molecular disruption fields," Harrison explained. "We can selectively disable any technology we choose by interfering with the atomic bonds that hold it together. Your weapons still exist, Admiral, but the metal fatigue that would normally take centuries has been compressed into seconds. They are now too brittle to function safely." The same effect spread to the Collective and Zephyrian ships. Every weapon in both fleets became useless in the span of minutes. The alien commanders watched helplessly as their mighty armadas were reduced to helpless cargo haulers. But then Harrison demonstrated something even more remarkable. The damage to Nexus Station, which had been accumulating throughout the battle, began to reverse itself. Hull plates that had been blown away reformed from scattered debris. Shattered windows became whole again. Systems that had been destroyed came back online. "Temporal reconstruction technology," Harrison said as the alien crews watched in awe. "We can reverse entropy within localized fields, essentially undoing damage by moving objects backward through time, while leaving their surroundings unaffected." Captain Santos, still aboard the New Horizon, added her own voice to the demonstration. "Every technology you have seen today was developed in secret while you laughed at our visible fleet. We spent decades learning to work with forces you have barely discovered." Admiral Vextar slumped in his command chair, the fight going out of him. "What do you want from us humans? You have proven your superiority. Do you demand our surrender?" Harrison's expression softened slightly. "We want what Ambassador Chen asked for 6 months ago, Admiral. We want to join galactic civilization, but we want to join it as equals, not as subjects or curiosities. The Council will have to be informed," Counselor Zelmoth said quietly. "This changes everything." "Yes, it does," Harrison agreed. "And when you inform them, you can also tell them that humanity has terms for our participation in galactic affairs." She leaned forward in her command chair, and her voice carried the weight of 2,000 advanced warships. "The age of species being judged by their apparent weakness is over. The age of might-making right is ending. Humanity is prepared to enforce a new order in this galaxy, one based on merit rather than military posturing." The alien fleets hung motionless in space, their weapons useless, their pride shattered. Around them, the human armada waited with the patience of predators who knew they had already won. The demonstration was over. Now the real negotiations would begin. 3 weeks after the demonstration at Nexus Station, the Galactic Council convened for the most important session in its 1,000-year history. The great hall that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now buzzed with nervous energy and whispered conversations. Ambassador Chen Wei walked across the familiar crystal floor, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Harrison accompanied her, wearing the dress uniform of the Human Defense Fleet. Behind them came a delegation of human scientists, diplomats, and military advisors. The datapad Chen carried now contained very different information than it had 6 months ago. The seating arrangement had changed dramatically. Where once the Drakmor Empire, Kepler Collective, and Zephyrian Commonwealth had dominated the central positions, a new section had been hastily constructed. The human delegation took their places at a table that sat level with the most senior council members. Admiral Vextar looked like he had aged years in the past 3 weeks. His scales had lost their luster and his red eyes no longer burned with arrogance. The proud Drakmor military leader had been forced to explain to his emperor how an entire battle fleet had been rendered, helpless by technology they could not understand. "Counselor," Zelmoth floated in her crystal chamber, her body pulsing with nervous energy. The Zephyrians prided themselves on their wisdom and foresight, but they had completely failed to detect humanity's true nature. The shame of such blindness weighed heavily on their crystalline souls. The Kepler Collective representatives sat in perfect stillness, their shared consciousness processing the implications of what they had witnessed. For a species that believed they could calculate any outcome, the humans had introduced variables that broke their most sophisticated models. Chen stood and activated her datapad. A hologram appeared above the speaking platform, but this time it showed the real human defense fleet in all its glory. 2,000 advanced warships hung in formation around Earth, their dark hulls gleaming with technology that surpassed anything in the galactic database. Honored council members, Chen began, her voice carrying a confidence that had been absent from her first address. Humanity returns to request membership in the Galactic Council. As you can see, our circumstances have changed somewhat since our last meeting. A nervous chuckle ran through the hall, quickly suppressed. No one was laughing at humanity now. Admiral Harrison will address the military aspects of our proposal, Chen continued, stepping aside. Harrison moved to the platform with the measured steps of someone who commanded the most powerful fleet in known space. Council members, the demonstration at Nexus Station revealed only a fraction of human capabilities. Our technology extends far beyond what you witnessed. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show human settlements throughout the solar system. Massive cities floated among the gas giants, their populations numbering in the billions. Industrial complexes on distant moons produced materials and equipment on a scale that dwarfed galactic production. While you debated our worthiness based on 12 decoy ships, Harrison said, humanity was building a civilization that spans our entire star system. Our population exceeds 20 billion, all of them contributing to our technological and cultural development. Admiral Vextar found his voice, though it lacked its former strength. How long have you been preparing for this moment? Since first contact with galactic civilization, Harrison replied. We learned about the Council's existence 70 years ago when one of our deep space probes encountered a Zephyrian exploration vessel. We spent the next 7 decades studying your species, your technology, and your methods of governance. Counselor Zelmoth's crystal body pulsed with realization. You have been watching us for 70 years? Learning our weaknesses? Learning your nature, Chen corrected. We needed to understand what kind of civilization we were dealing with. The answer, unfortunately, was not encouraging. The hologram changed again, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Drekmore conquest fleets burning planets. Collective assimilation ships converting independent species into drones. Zephyrian trade vessels exploiting primitive civilizations for resources. The Galactic Council speaks of peace and cooperation, Chen continued, but your actions tell a different story. The strong dominate the weak. Advanced species exploit primitive ones. Military might determines political influence. Admiral Vextar shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Strength ensures survival, does it? Harrison asked. Your strength led you into a pointless war over mining rights. The collective strength drove them to absorb smaller species. The Zephyrian strength allowed them to manipulate trade agreements in their favor. What has all this strength actually accomplished? She gestured, and the hologram showed human colonies throughout their solar system. Diverse populations worked together on massive projects. Art and science flourished in environments where competition was balanced with cooperation. Humanity chose a different path, Harrison explained. Instead of seeking to dominate others, we focused on perfecting ourselves. Instead of conquest, we pursued knowledge. Instead of empire building, we built a sustainable civilization. The collective mind spoke through their representatives. The hive consciousness acknowledges human achievements. What are humanity's terms for council membership? Chen stepped forward again, her expression serious. Humanity will accept membership in the Galactic Council, but only if fundamental changes are made to its structure and purpose. The hall fell silent. No species had ever demanded changes to the Council as a condition of membership. First, Chen announced, the Council must be restructured with humanity as its senior member. Given our demonstrated technological superiority and commitment to peaceful development. Several alien delegates began to protest, but Chen continued without pause. Second, the practice of judging species based on perceived military weakness must end. New membership criteria will be established based on scientific achievement, cultural development, and commitment to peaceful coexistence. Admiral Vextar stood up, his massive form trembling with suppressed rage. You cannot simply remake the galactic order to suit your preferences. Harrison's response was quiet, but carried the weight of absolute authority. Admiral, your fleet is still floating helplessly in space with disabled weapons. Your choice is simple. Accept the new order or remain irrelevant to it. Third, Chen continued, a new galactic constitution will be drafted emphasizing cooperation over competition, development over conquest, and wisdom over force. Species that cannot adapt to these principles will find themselves excluded from council activities. Counselor Zelmoth floated forward, her crystal body pulsing with desperate hope. And if we agree to these terms? What then? Then humanity will share selected technologies with council members, Harrison said. Medical advances that could extend lifespans across all species. Agricultural techniques that could end hunger on 1,000 worlds. Environmental restoration methods that could heal damaged planets. The promise of such gifts sent ripples of excitement through the assembled delegates. Every species represented had problems that human technology could solve. But, Chen added with steel in her voice, these technologies will only be shared with species that demonstrate genuine commitment to the new order. Conquest, forced assimilation, and exploitation of weaker species will result in immediate suspension of technological sharing. The debate that followed lasted for hours. Representatives argued, pleaded, and negotiated, but the reality was undeniable. Humanity held all the advantages. Their fleet could enforce any decision they chose to make. In the end, the vote was unanimous. The Galactic Council accepted humanity's terms in full. Over the following months, the galaxy began to transform. Human peacekeeping fleets patrolled former conflict zones, their advanced technology making aggression pointless. The new Council Constitution was signed by every member species, establishing principles that prioritize development over domination. Most remarkably, other species began to reveal their own hidden capabilities. The galaxy had been full of civilizations that had learned to hide their true strength, following humanity's example of letting others underestimate them. Dozens of primitive species emerged from the shadows with technologies and achievements that rivaled the former great powers. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's senior representative to the reformed council, stood before the Great Assembly 1 year after humanity's acceptance. The hall that had once echoed with mocking laughter now hummed with productive cooperation. The galaxy has learned an important lesson, she addressed the assembled delegates. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the wisest. The strongest fist is not always attached to the most capable mind. True power comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to build. She paused, looking out at representatives from hundreds of worlds, many of which had been considered worthless by the old order. Humanity waited 70 years to reveal our true nature because we needed to understand what kind of galaxy we were joining. We discovered that strength without wisdom leads only to conflict and waste. We chose to demonstrate a different path. As Chen concluded her address, deep space monitoring stations throughout the galaxy detected something remarkable.